back at Mainstay with our book by Marguerite Henry, Brighty of the Grand Canyon. We have been reading chapters of Brighty, especially before we were able to get back out into the community a little bit when the stay-at-home order was in place. But there are lots and lots of chapters, and so we thought we might summarize a little bit of what's happening with Brighty and read you the last chapter of the book. So if you are interested in hearing about all of his very harrowing adventures, you could go out and find the book for yourself and read it with your family. So since we last left Brighty, he fell into the Colorado River, was sort of saved by a beaver, ran into some other troubles with the bad guy, and eventually, fortunately, his friends found him, and he was not feeling well, but they figured out how to safely get him home. By the time they found him, it had snowed. The seasons had changed. So the last chapter of the book we're reading today is called The Way Home, and I'm sharing the reading honors of this particular chapter with Sierra. So she's going to get us started off in the chapter, and I will finish up.
Hi, my name is Sierra Reiser. I'm reading Brighty. The rescue team of the sheriff and his young deputy have faced their errand of mercy with a great courage. They knew well that finding Uncle Jim and Hummer alive was extremely doubtful, with the snow 50 feet deep, temperature below zero, unless the old man and the boy has taken refuge in the ranch house or in Uncle Jim's cabin. There was almost no chance of finding them at all. But Uncle Jim was so beloved by the whole town of Fredonia that everyone wanted to help. Housewives offered their warm blankets. The Prime Minister contributed his mail. Toboggan, the harness maker, stuffed a straw mattress for it, and the storekeeper donated bacon, oatmeal, and coffee and sugar. Firmly, the deputy remembered a story of Arctic adventure, took along a few sticks of dynamite. Without them, the rescue might not have gained entry to the ranch house in time. It was the smoke curling out of the chimney that told them someone was there, and as fast as a number finger could work. They set off a blanket blast that started Homer half out of his wrist. When they burst in upon the starving group, the sheriff was the one mostly deep moved, pleased as he was to see Uncle Jim and Homer, and even rightly. He was astonished to learn that men bound to the cupboard was the long-haunted desperado who murdered his friend. The sheriff buzzed like a bee in a covert. He could hardly contain himself while Uncle Jim told about the moon lily tea and the confession. He whipped out his notebook and wrote fiercely, as if the thrust of the lead were a stab in the flesh of the iron. With a great affection, he turned to the prisoner. In the name of the law, as the sheriff of casino country I rescued Jake Irons, he said promiscuously, for the murder of one Hickinson a Clear, and the 10th murder of James Owen. In spite of his eagerness to deliver criminal justice, he could see Uncle Jim and Hammer and Iron too would have be fed and strengthened for the trip. Uncle Jim pretended a great weakness in order to give Brighty time to recover. It's my legs, he complained. They're rubber, as them toy knives kids play with. But let me seize now.
He went over to the burrow and washed the dirt from the wound Brighty had. With a glow of pride, he noticed that the wound was already healing. In my next life, he thought, maybe I could be a horse doctor instead of a lion hunter. Out loud, he said, Sheriff, with all them victuals you brung, I reckon my legs will be ready day after tomorrow. No need for your legs, the sheriff replied. That's why we got the toboggan. In the 2 days that followed, his only thought was for Brighty. He made him hot mashes of rolled oats and fed him sugar for energy. He poured bacon grease, lukewarm, into the wound. Not something that we would do today. Then, in half-hour stretches, he walked Brighty around in a circle, like a groom tuning up a fancy racehorse for a big event. The morning of the second day dawned, bright and clear. The sun threw a glitter on the snow, and the sky arched deep and blue. Shadows of deeper blue slanted out of the timber and sharpened the white of the snow. A party of 5 men with a toboggan was making its slow way across the freshly varnished world. Just take her easy, fellers, the sheriff said, his breath making a column of steam in the air. The snow's got a good crust, and the pines will show us the way home. If this ain't a comical sight, here's a parcel of people footing it, and the beast of burden riding. Uncle Jim, paddling along like a pelican, lifted one webbed foot over the other. Don't see nothing hilarious at that. Then he took in the sight. Jake Irons wearing a harness and pulling the toboggan with the burro aboard. He began to grin. Reckon it is a thing at that. His eyes were on the straining figure, but he really saw little Mimi using the reward money to buy one of those newfangled wheelchairs and scooting around in it faster than she could with her legs. He saw old-timer's watch dangling from the arm of the chair and Mimi prizing that above everything else. Sure, it's funny, the sheriff roared. Oddest rescue I've ever seen. Today's easy. Tomorrow, he said to Irons, tomorrow will be weighing on the scales of justice. Snowshoes a-creaking, the party tramped on, Brighty's blanket a red splash against the white world. It's a wonder our lung pipes can stand the shock of fine, fresh air, Uncle Jim said. I can't suck in enough of it, Homer said breathlessly. You reckon Brighty can take it? Uncle Jim's face clouded. He watched the slight, blanketed figure of the donkey brace itself as Irons floundered up a rise. Maybe, he said in alarm. The thin, cold air is too much for him. He's so weak and all, and this is his first winter away from the canyon. And then, almost at the top of the hill, Brighty's head came up, and his ears forked sharp against the sky. It gave the old man a start to see such a change. It was as if a frisky young jack donkey had taken the place of the tired old one. Why, look! He's spunky, Uncle Jim smiled to himself. Just a little youngster been cooped up too long, and he's addled with freedom. It was true. Brighty had changed. He seemed aware all at once that he was free. No one gripping his tail or prodding him with a rifle. No walls hemming him in. The wide, free world and the sky above were his. He tossed his head, testing and tasting the air, letting strength flow back into him. The red blanket began rippling, then billowed to the movement of his lungs. He tried a little whinny in his throat. and it grew bigger and wilder and came out as an old steam whistle bray, high and joyous. Hee-haw! Ee-ah! Ee-ah! Uncle Jim, too, took in a great lungful of air. Brighty ain't going under, his voice cracked in happiness. Yep, fellers, he's gonna make it. And the rocks and hills rang with the words, yep, fellers, he's gonna make it. He's gonna make it. And then, again and again, the end. Years after writing the book, Marguerite Henry wrote an epilogue. And now, canyon winds still blow restless, and the Colorado River still cuts its way depth upon depth through the milky high walls. And from the far corners of the world, men come to explore this open book of the earth's crust. Some are scientists and other artists, and some are troubled people who come to find themselves, to drop their worries into the great chasm. Riding muleback, they zigzag down the face of the wall over some of the very trails marked out by Brighty's feet long ago. Often in the middle of the descent, their mules come to a dead halt, long ears pricked over the edge, eyes sighting a tiny lone figure far below. Then up from the distance, a piercing voice calls, "Ee-aw, ee-aw." Look, the guides cry, down yonder, a wild burrow. Maybe, the guide grins to the riders behind him, maybe it's Bright Angel. Of course, everyone knows that Brighty had long since left this earth, but some animals, like some men, leave a trail of glory behind them. They give their spirit to the place where they've lived and remain forever a part of the rocks and streams and the wind and sky. Especially on moonlit nights, a shaggy little form can be seen flirting along the ledges, a thin swirl of dust rising behind him. Some say it is nothing but moonbeams caught in the cloud, but the older guides swear it is a trail dust out of the past, kicked up by Brighty himself, the roving spirit of the Grand Canyon, forever wild, forever free.